Michael, morning to you. The reaction was actually quite muted, wasn't it?
That's right, and that comes despite terrible alarmism in the run-up to the verdict on the part of the government. So one of the things we need to ask ourselves is why the government was so agitated before the verdict was announced.
And what's the answer to that question?
Well, there are two possibilities. One is that the government was using scare tactics to try to alarm its constituency with the prospect of violence on the part of the pro-Thaksin red shirt movement, a typical strategy of antagonism that the government has used to demean its red shirt opponents. The other possibility is that the government is immensely frustrated with its lack of political progress since it took power in December 2008. At some point, this government needs to face an election. I think it's aware that it's made very little headway in preparing the electoral ground for a campaign that it can win.
What happens from this point on out? I mean, the fact that Thaksin's estate is allowed to keep $1 billion, is that going to pacify the red shirts? What do the red shirts have up their sleeve? No pun intended, obviously, Michael. Next.
It's always very hard to know what red shirts have up their sleeve because they've proved in the past that they can organize quietly and at points fairly distant from Bangkok. There are really two scenarios regarding the red shirts. One is that these constant attacks on Thaksin and on the movement will lead them to be frustrated, fatigued, and maybe lose steam. The other is that the red shirts have kept their eye on the ball, and the ball, of course, is an election, and that they are slowly organizing, deepening their ideological commitment, and ready to have their way where it counts. That is, not in front of 9 judges, but in a free and fair election.
What is the role of King Bhumibol in all this? I saw a shot of him with his dog. He was out of the hospital. We're obviously not at a 1991-style political impasse at this point. But what is the role of King Bhumibol? I mean, we have learned ever since he was admitted to the hospital that despite the fact that he is revered and universally respected in the kingdom, he is still immortal. He is still a human being like any of us.
Well, there's great dread in Thailand regarding his health situation. He left the hospital briefly the other day, really for the first time since September. At the same time, he met very openly with 2 groups of judges in the weeks leading up to this verdict against Thaksin. So there is some sense in which he believes that the courts really can play a crucial role in resolving Thailand's political impasse. This is regarded by many as the judicialization of Thai politics, and one really needs to ask oneself whether solving problems in the courts rather than solving them at the polls is a successful way to resolve Thailand's very, very deep problems.
So what is the next move for the Abhisit administration? I mean, the fact that Thaksin has been out of the country for years, in the political wilderness, in exile, and can still exact this kind of response and this kind of loyalty among his supporters, tells me that Kun Abhisit has been unable to really mobilize their affection. I mean, it's just basically a standoff. It's the either or, the black or white. It is the urban elite versus the rural masses, and there's nothing that's been really done to fix that polarity.
Well, one open question here is whether the allegiances of the Red Party extend beyond Thaksin, and I think there's a strong likelihood that they do. Abhisit himself is tragically incapable of reaching out to the mass of the Thai electorate. What's very surprising is the inability of the men behind Abhisit, in the army, in the network monarchy, in other parts of the Democrat Party, in other coalition parties. What's striking is their inability to reach out more effectively than Abhisit has. And I think the best thing the government can do now is to try to address Thailand's very deep economic woes and hope that they're given credit for having done so when the next polls arrive.
Michael, thanks for your analysis there.